Are we in?
Oh yeah, I
Did
think we
we
are
re-
live.
did we
Yes,
did
it
we take
worked.
off? Okay. All right,
Yeah.
that's good. What's going on with Chris?
So Chris is late today. He said he'll come. Everybody, cross your fingers, and Chris will appear here. Poof, in a
Okay.
magical
Well, hello,
way.
Mihaela in Romania and Crystal in cyberspace and Gabriella in Oregon and Dan and Raymond in Kentucky. And hello, everybody. I see people are coming in. All right, great. Here we are again. The great
Yeah.
transition, looking at what's going on in the world through the lens of the wisdom of Kabbalah. We are at a historical moment in time, except it's not as dramatic as it sounds because every day, like in the past, maybe you had a major historical event at some kind of frequency. Now every single day is like the most dramatic, most historic, most epic. Um, it kind of feels maybe we're a little bit numb to it, but really this is maybe one of the most important times ever. So here we are talking about what's going on through the lens of the wisdom of Kabbalah. We're glad you're with us. Asaf, when I wake up in the morning, I pick up my phone,
How do
start
you wake
checking if
up?
there was
How do
a,
you wake up in the morning?
huh?
How do you wake up in the morning?
I have a pretty good biological clock now, but sometimes it doesn't work and the
You
alarm on the
do?
phone goes off.
That's cool.
But so I wake up, pick up the
Huh.
phone, start checking if there was a war or any. It's like my habit, or if there was any
Mm-hmm.
economic collapse while I was sleeping, or who
Mm-hmm.
screwed over who. If there was a big tornado or a big earthquake, or maybe possibly something good happened while I was sleeping. Um, or
Yeah.
okay, maybe somebody could relate to that. You wake up in the morning, you pick up the phone, and you check WhatsApp, check the messages, check Twitter, check here, see what happened in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Or alternatively, sometimes I wake up in the morning, keep my eyes shut. I start thinking about all the people I love. I start thinking of how I want life to be good for them, how I want life to be good for everyone, how simple it would be. There's so many resources. I turn to the creator and say there's enough of everything for everyone, and there's unlimited power in the universe, and all of the tools are in place that we could get a message of goodness to everyone, and everyone could feel good, and everyone could have whatever they need. You need a home and a food, and there's everything in medicine and everything. How I want it there to be good for everyone. If I don't look at the news, right? Maybe you get up one day on the weekend and
Mm-hmm.
you wake up, Chris, and you, you, you start thinking like this, and you don't check the phone for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. You don't check WhatsApp. You don't look at Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
and you're kind of in a bubble of what could be, of how life is. So
And you do that for at least, say, 3 hours before you
so
start your day.
yeah, or I know some of our friends who come who join us here
Mm-hmm.
live a different kind of lifestyle. I also once lived, or a few times lived, kind of off of the grid, and you're not really paying attention to what's going on in the news cycle and what's going on in every place in the world. So the question is, if you don't look at Twitter in the morning or WhatsApp in the morning, are those things really happening? If I just sit there
Mm.
in my gratitude and bliss in the early morning and I don't check my phone, you know, so I don't get, because if you check it, right, you get all the emotions connected to it. So
Mm.
if you stay disconnected from that,
I, I, I
are
I
all of,
think I think it's that's a classic question to ask ourselves from a as Kabbalah daily practitioners. I mean, we start our day. Of course, for you, it's a different time of the day. So your corporeal clock is different, but your spiritual clock is the same. So that's like the beginning of your day, your evening, the lesson, the daily lesson. So yeah, I mean, for the first 3 hours of my day, I do not check not Twitter or whatever, anything, not the news or anything. My first 3 hours of the day is do exactly what you said. Think
Okay, but your
about
first 3 hours of the day are from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.
that's
So
right.
3 a.m. to
That's a
6 a.m. So it's
detail.
it's kind of
That's a
unusual. But the
detail.
concept,
No,
imagine you're
but
like a
but
normal
no, but what I'm
human being.
saying is this is very much changes how you perceive the world and the news and Twitter and everything that's happening because um, um, if you we don't need escapism. It's not about just disconnecting, detaching myself completely from everything that's happening. We need a change of perception. We need to be able to look at what's happening from a higher vantage point. That's what a Kabbalistic routine gives you. And then the whole cycle of the news is perceived differently, and everything that's happening to you in life is perceived differently because you're trying to, each time when the news hits or the next headline or something in your day or something in your life, you have a new reference. You have the reference point. You have you have some power, some energy, some higher perspective that allows you to, that you can go back to.
So you
And
anchor yourself as a student of the wisdom of Kabbalah, being in the 3 hour lesson every day, which for you is in the morning. For us, it's the evening, the night before. I mean, it's the same. It's happening at the same time, but on our clock, it's 8 p.m. Your clock is
And I
3 a.m.
have both. I don't go to sleep, so it's at the end of my day, but it's still in the morning.
Oh, you're like
right.
the middle between Asaf and I. So that's the anchor from which everything else happens. But for I think most people,
Oh yeah, what we're
you
talking
you
right
get
now
up
is
and you
completely
get so
irrelevant
you
to
get your
most people.
download.
Right. Yeah.
We get our download from the system first from that lesson, but most people get their download from social media, from the
Yeah,
news.
yeah,
So
absolutely. But I'm saying if people, even if you didn't disconnect from social media, for ordinary people, and they don't need 3 hours a day. I thought we were talking about us. That's completely hardcore and unrealistic to
no, I
ordinary
was imagining
people.
that we're just
But
normal people.
okay. So as normal people, I mean, but you you could translate this experience to something that an ordinary person, that a person who doesn't study Kabbalah can do, which is don't start your day. I would give this is like, I don't know. Are we giving practical tips all of a sudden? Is that where we wanted to go? Because that's what's coming out at the moment all of a sudden. Um,
No, no.
okay.
I just wanted to juxtapose uh, the difference of waking up and, well, like for example, when I
One
was in
second,
high
one
school,
second, one second. Do you guys hear audio problems? Is that what that's
I
what's
do. I hear a
happening?
lot of crackling.
Chris, you hear it too?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
okay. I don't hear any of it. Maybe there's a thing that's just happening here in the Zoom between us. Uh, everyone in the chat, can you tell us? Oh, wow, there's a bunch of people from many different places. Hello, everybody. Can you tell us? Yeah, okay. Benny says there's no problem with the sound. I think everything is smooth on the streaming side of things. So if you guys can deal with it, let's continue as
Okay,
it is.
cool. Anne says good. Raymond says good.
Yeah.
Just curious
Okay.
says good. Okay, so
Thanks,
I
folks.
was in
Yeah.
high school in the early 90s. And when I was in high school, the U.S. went to war in Iraq. And we were all super patriotic because the news that we heard, remember, you get a newspaper at your front door every day. There was no, this was the beginning of CNN 24-hour news. So before that, we didn't have CNN 24-hour news. We didn't have 24-hour news. So what we heard, the story of just a kid in America, was that there was some bad guys far away, and our army was going to get the bad guys and
Hmm.
keep the world a safe place. So that was the story that we
Right.
got. Now today, obviously, there's a lot more details, and it's
There's a
way
lot more
more.
details. There was a lot more detail when you were a kid too, but that's the problem. As kids, the stories for us, even if you hear a lot of detail, as kids we perceive things in a very binary way. Good guy,
But not
bad
not just
guy,
kids,
hero,
not just kids.
yeah.
Whatever you would read, there weren't a lot of different news sources. There weren't a lot of opinions.
Oh, right.
Whatever message you got was the message
Yeah.
that came out, and that was kind of the message that most everybody got. There was kind of one truth of what happened. So we have come to rely on a constant flow of information. It's like air to us. It's how we live. I don't understand my fellow human beings if I'm out of that loop. That's what
Right.
people are talking about every day. That's what people are thinking about every day. So if something happens, like the
Mm-hmm.
Kanye thing, right? Everyone
Mm-hmm.
knows about it, or some guffaw that a politician makes,
Yeah.
like everybody knows about it, or some protest
And
happening
it's funny,
somewhere in Iran.
we take it for granted.
What?
We take it for granted, this constant stream of information and news. We got used to it, but you're so right in that it's totally new. It didn't exist in the world. This was not the reality of human beings just a couple decades ago. Very different
So this,
reality. Yeah.
right. So this flow of information that we're constantly getting from social media, or from, when I say social media, I'm including all of the news that we get, like, because probably a lot of people now get their news from social media, not just the mainstream media. So
Right.
this even if it's the mainstream media, we're getting every day a constant flow of information, and that, in a sense, connects us and attaches us to everyone else. We're all kind of going through the same
Right.
story together of where we
Yep.
are with COVID, with the World Cup, with Kanye, with this, with whatever it is.
Yes.
This constant flow of information.
Yeah,
So
and more
whoever
than ever before, the story is global than ever before. Like more than ever
right.
before, everyone on the planet is gradually kind of like going through the same. It's like we're in an ocean and the waves are the same all over the world in a way. Kind of like it's getting there. It's getting more and more like that.
Yeah,
Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
right. Because if you have millions and millions, or hundreds of millions of people on a platform like Twitter, for example, then you can, if you run that Twitter, control the information that flows out to the world. So there was a radio show. I don't remember when it was. It was before TV. It was called War of the Worlds. People turned on the radio, and they thought that aliens were attacking, because the radio stories, what the show on the radio was about, aliens attacking, and people literally thought that aliens were attacking. So if you control what information comes out of the media, that actually can make you feel anxious, can make you feel confident, can make you feel happy, can make you feel sad, even if it has nothing to do with the actual reality.
Right.
That's the story. So it brings us to a story in the news in the last week. We'll call it the Twitter files. So,
Okay.
you guys ready?
Sounds like the X Files. Remember the X
Okay,
Files?
I do.
Yeah, I
Chris, how you
liked it
doing? What does that
as a
face
kid.
mean? That face means audio is working, audio is not working.
You asking me or Chris? Oh,
No,
Chris.
Chris.
No, sorry, I've been losing like audio back and forth. I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Like it's
Oh
just
no.
dropping some program. I might have to
Uh,
restart my computer in a second if it keeps doing
okay.
it.
So maybe yeah, maybe
Okay.
just restart and put us on the phone of YouTube while you restart.
Be right
How's
back.
that? How's that? Okay, catch you later.
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
Yeah, man.
okay. So, uh, so Elon Musk bought Twitter. Again, everybody, if you're joining us for, you're kind of new here, we are not partisan. We are not favorable to the left. We're not favorable to the right. We're not favorable to Republicans or Democrats. We want to look at this system. All systems in nature are built of a plus and minus, an up and down, an in and out, a right and left. We're interested in this system, the cadence, the walk, how the whole system operates. So we're looking at the big picture. Sometimes we're talking about things on the right, sometimes we're talking about things on the left, but only in order to build that perspective and see the big picture. So Keep that in mind. Elon Musk bought Twitter and decided to release internal documents of what was going on at Twitter around the time of the United States election, presidential election in 2020. So internal documents from Twitter show suppression of free speech before and around the 2020 presidential election. So it looks like both presidential candidates had these tools. They could send requests to Twitter saying, look into this account and this account. We'd like you to close this account, or this person's talking like this. But because Twitter was more favorable to the left, to Biden, and Twitter is more, you could say, progressive or left-leaning. So the Biden team would send a list of accounts to be deleted or suppressed, and they would get an email back saying, we handled it, or it's handled. Okay? So, like I said, apparently the Trump team had these tools as well, but it was much, much more towards the left. Okay, so that's pretty significant, because if you're running for president, let's just, in my imaginary world, and some news organization comes out and says that, I killed 50 people. And I have no way, I'm just being I'm exaggerating a lot.
Okay.
I have no way, and that message gets out to the whole country. And even if I'm able to get
You
ahead
have
of it
no
and
idea
try-
what it's talking about, what they're talking about, and they say you killed 50 people.
right,
Okay.
a week before the election.
Right.
And I have no way to get the message out that I actually
Well,
did
first
it.
of all, why run for president? It's the worst job in the world, man. Why
I just,
do that
I
to
just want to
yourself?
give a
No,
hypothetical.
I'm kidding.
The
Go
point
ahead.
is, I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't get elected because people would think I'm a bad guy,
Right.
even if it's not true.
Yes.
So the point isn't about so much of the actual details, and we don't want to get into who did what and how. And the point is just generally that you can really change what people think and feel by
Absolutely.
controlling that information.
Absolutely.
Okay? So,
100%.
and we know that already. It didn't start with Twitter. This
Yeah.
is how Hollywood works and how the news works. We understand this. But
Nazi Germany. Yeah, of course.
okay, so the story, but this is an interesting story, and it's in the news now, so we want to talk about it. So the story gets even more nuanced. So the person who
Okay.
was responsible for, so how Elon Musk decided to do this was he was going to give those files to two different journalists, and those journalists were then going to release them in their own accounts, right? He wasn't going to personally release them. He was going to give them to some journalists who were going to be able to go through them, read them, and then make their own
So the
journalistic
journalists
assessment.
are like the objective kind of, third party here. It's like I'm
Guy
giving
named
them
Matt
the
Taibbi
information.
and Barry Weiss, yeah.
Okay. So he says,
Yeah.
Musk is saying I'm giving them the information. They're gonna just deal with it as journalists should deal with it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the person responsible within Twitter for releasing the files, now they didn't know
Yeah.
this at first, this just came out about a week after. The person responsible for releasing those files to the journalists was the Deputy General Counsel for Twitter, which means the high-level attorney. Counsel means attorney for Twitter. This high-level attorney for Twitter was previously counsel for the FBI.
Oh.
And he was working at Twitter, so he got fired.
Hello,
once they-
conflict of interests. Yeah.
Right. So those files flowed through him before they went out. Anyway, it's very nuanced. The point is, everyone, we live in a world full of terrible, horrible things right now. Everybody can point. I mean, depression, fentanyl,
War.
War. Yeah, horrible wars.
Eco
Economic.
genocide, eco disaster. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if a person lives in a first world country and their refrigerator is full of food, the inner angst and feelings of separation and isolation that people feel is off the charts.
Yeah.
It's constantly magnified by the lies and the propaganda that comes out of all of these news feeds that we're reading all the time.
Yeah, the big point then is distrust. I think that's what you feel. I think you open those we're in such a cyclical kind of unhealthy vicious cycle here. Like what you said, you wake up, you go to the news, you go to the Twitter, you go to the headlines, whatever, and it just makes you more anxious. And then you go into your day with all this anxiety and all that, and that's kind of like the ordinary day for a lot of people. And it's not even that, because what you're reading there and what you're seeing there is also twisted, falsified, distorted, and used to manipulate you in one way or another. So that's it's
We had this
yeah.
we had this event last weekend. You and I and Chris, we were all there. It was an event where a couple thousand people from however many countries, I don't know, probably 100 plus countries. The event was translated simultaneously into, I think, almost 24 languages or something crazy like that. And the whole event was around unifying above all of our differences. And while that event was going on, when we would have a break, I was seeing like what's going on in the world. The world was turning upside down. There was all kinds of crazy problems and fighting, and this one criticizing this one. And I saw so clear, because we were all in that intention together. It was so clear to kind of look down at the sandbox, or like look down at the ant. Like, there's no solution in that, because this side is lying about that side and that side is lying about this side, and it's just banging the ball back and forth over the net, and you can't ever get to a solution from that level.
And you also can't get to thinking about people as truth sayers, as you know what I mean? Like honesty, integrity are things that we need to, if we want to be honest with ourselves, then I think today in the 21st century, we need to rule out honesty and integrity. Like it's naive to think about people who are giving us information, making decisions in the political, from the political arena, CEOs of companies that all that matters to them is the bottom line and their stakeholders and shareholders. And so forth. I mean, what how naive is it for a 21st century modern person to think of basically anyone as being, kind-hearted and like well-intentioned towards you? You know what I mean? Isn't it a bit?
I think there's many people in our chat right now who would think that they are kind-hearted, good-intentioned people
About themselves.
Yeah.
Do they think that way about the people who tell them the news, or their leaders, or the big media, big pharma, big corporations, big everything? Do you think that people look at, say, I don't know, you mentioned Elon Musk, right? Do you think that people look at him and say, oh, finally a person full of integrity, a man of truth,
Yes,
he's
I
a
think people say that.
scientist, he's an engineer, he's an entrepreneur, he's well-intentioned, he's good-hearted, he wants to take humanity to Mars, and now he's starting with reinstating free speech into the world by taking charge of Twitter. So is that a fair, you think, reflection of what's going on in a lot of people's minds, you think?
Yes.
You're probably right, and I'm probably wrong, but it'll go away. People will understand. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. And I'm not against the Musks or the whatever, whoever. I'm not against any person here. It's just we are in a process of gradually recognizing that I mean humanity, all of human society, we're gradually recognizing that we are all made of the same stuff. All human beings.
What is that stuff that we're made out of?
Well, so Kabbalistically, we would call it the ego, the human ego. That is the number one driver behind all of our decision-making processes and thoughts and behaviors and patterns of what's right and wrong and so forth. It is the program that shapes our perception of reality. We can't see reality and interface and interact with reality if not through the bubble of the ego. And because of that, that means that if you put a person in a position of power, doesn't matter what kind of position, what kind of power, and what kind of agenda, or what kind of, how great that person is. When a person has power, it's, clearly they will use it in the way that is best for them. Maybe for a while, or for some people in some situations shaped by certain environmental conditions and values, will do things that are not horrible for other people. I'm not saying that. But at the end of the day, we're all made of the same stuff, and we will all do work according to that human ego. And
So that's the fundamental point there. That regardless, as long as we are living the normal level, and everyone we see outside is living on that normal level, as long as we're on that level, each one is a piece of hardware with a piece of software installed on it. And that software, the person doesn't have the ability to be an altruist, regardless of even if they want to be, because the software running inside will not allow a person to do something against their own self-interest. And if it looks like they're doing something against self-interest, it's because you didn't discover all their layers of what their self-interest are.
Right, and maybe they themselves didn't even discover it. That's also possible. Yeah.
Here's an interesting nuance. The Dini Alahi in the chat over here is saying that optimists can see, and the Dini writes that scholars, observers, and scientists like Steve Pinker prove this, that things are getting better on average. Just pessimists always accentuate the negative. So we talked about
this. I like this point. Yeah, you want to get into it? You want to? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's because it's important to discern where the nuance of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You can say, for example, that somebody living today, a normal person living today, with climate control in their house and a refrigerator in their house and an oven in their house and a supermarket, lives better than a king 200 years ago. So
and let me add to that. Let's identify first with the Din Alahi. Hey, first time here, our friend?
And where are you from? Because
let us know where you're watching from.
Doesn't sound like you're from Jersey, but
tell us where you're watching from. Anyway, we agree with you at face value. At face value, absolutely. The people of the 21st century are living like kings compared to people even, just a couple hundred years ago. And, our life expectancy is much, much better, and it keeps growing. Every 10 years, we're adding 2.5 years to our life expectancy. Medicine is improving. We're going to have nanotechnology soon that will help us, send little nanobots into your blood to fix your problem faster than your white blood cells. It's incredible. We have the World Wide Web. The world is connected. There's also laws, democratic laws, right, that prevent us from, just being barbaric and killing each other on the street. It still happens in a few inner cities here and there, but at least, it's better than before. So obviously, yes, we can, you're right about all those things. But that does not mean that humans have become less egoistic. That does not mean that. Human beings, as they evolve, there's only one direction until we begin to evolve spiritually as a global society, and that is the inflation of the human ego.
So we can say that the more the generations, the incarnations roll through time, the greater and greater and greater the ego gets. So while on the outside, it looks like things are getting better and better, 100 years ago, if I missed a meal for a day, I could be used to it. Today, if I can't find my phone for 5 minutes, I have an anxiety attack, right?
Yeah.
So it's totally different. I'm using this
Yeah,
as an example.
don't
It's-
look at another word for the dean. Can I call you the dean? The dean, Dini Alahi. Sorry, that now I see the name. Need to get used to the name. So the um sorry, where were we? What were we talking about?
the ego is growing. So
The
is
ego.
life better now than it was in the past?
Yes, you can say that life is better now. Better is also, a relative term. But no, there was a different point, but I don't know if I remember it. So let's
Okay,
continue.
so here's what I want to get to. Through
Wait,
this
can you hear me
story,
right now? Do you hear
yes,
me?
we hear you.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yay.
All right. Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. Yeah, I hear you. For the time being,
Okay,
I don't know what's
great.
going on. Sorry.
Okay, hi, Chris. We're discussing the Twitter files.
Oh, I heard you. I heard you guys. Yeah, I heard the
Okay,
whole thing.
okay. So the point is this. Listen. So is anyone surprised? So for example, I have some friends who live in Russia. So the story that they get about why their country is fighting, they feel very strong.
Oh, check this
That-
out. The Dini Alahi, sorry, that is just
Go ahead.
is Seraphim.
Ah,
He just
okay.
changed the name.
Um,
Okay.
So
we can move forward.
The story
Yeah.
that the Russian media is telling the Russian people in Russia justifies their position, and it gives spirit and confidence to them. Now, the story that the Ukrainians are getting from their media is a totally different story. So if you told, you sometimes say to your kid, like, don't go outside. Your kid wants to go outside at night. You're like, don't go outside, there's a bear. And the kid's like, oh, the kid doesn't go outside even if there's no bear. But now you told a story to get your agenda across. So the point is, is anyone capable of telling the truth? I think that's the first question. Is anyone capable of telling the truth?
Yeah, good one. What is the truth, though?
Well, I mean, if I'm a parent and I don't want my kid to go outside and he's not listening to anything I say, but I tell him there's
Yeah.
a bear outside and then he listens, but it's actually better for my kid if he goes to bed. So I didn't tell the truth, but I got the outcome I wanted, and the outcome's actually better for the kid. He's going to get to go to bed.
So
And he
wait
needs
a second. So then we have truth, which is a certain kind of term, and then we have another thing, which is the benefit of the person you are treating, taking care of, talking to. The benefit of your kid, it might not be best for you to tell him the truth.
Okay, so
According
this
to
is
the
exactly what the
example
politicians
you
think.
just say.
And this is exactly what the people at Twitter were thinking. The people at Twitter were thinking Donald Trump is a very terrible person to be leading the world. His policies are against everything I believe. So even though we're suppressing what these people, his supporters, say, we object. That's better. It's like the parent telling the kid there's a bear outside.
Right, but do they feel themselves as parents for the whole world? Do they feel or the
Suppose
society?
they do. Let's
do
give
they
them the
feel
benefit of
no,
the
no,
doubt. and
no,
suppose
no,
they're
let's
doing it
not.
from
No, let's not. No, because that's
Let's not?
no, let's not. Do they feel the public as their children? Do they children in the
Are they
sense
doing it
that
from a place of love?
are
and care?
exactly, or they want to be at the helm, or they want to be in control, or they want to be their guy, to be leading their ideology, and so on.
Okay,
Do
let's say Genghis
if you
Khan.
like,
Let's
if you
say-
love, one
let's
second,
say Stalin.
if you love your child, and your child thinks differently about life, about politics, about whatever, like ideologically, do you stop loving them? Do you force their arm to think like you? Do you you know what I mean? So that's where love and truth are sort of qualities that that have a certain overlapping point. Anyway, okay, I see you want to go a different route. Go ahead.
So apparently Joseph Stalin is responsible for the death of like 100 million people, plus or minus, right? A huge amount of people. So
Right.
if you were controlling the social media at the time and you could silence his voice, would you do it? Right? Is that okay? In a nation that has, for example, it's today, and you
Yeah.
have free speech.
Mm-hmm.
So, who decides?
Wait. Do we know that this is what is going to do? Do you know that this is
I
going to
think that the
cause?
people who are
Yeah.
silencing Trump, and again, we're not talking
Mm-hmm.
about left and right. We're just using these people as an example. It's a story in the news that we're just taking to try and
Ken,
explain and
right.
understand
Maybe
human
don't even
nature.
say a name of a person. Just speak hypothetically, because I think people can't. There's immediate knee-jerk reactions, and people will
We want to
continue think
understand
we're
human
either
nature. We
left or
don't care
right
about
or
right or left.
yeah.
Let's no. Okay, but we want to understand human nature. We want to understand spirituality. We want to
Okay, so
understand where we're going with all this.
so you had a very
So
intriguing question there. If we think that there is a
I
person
think that people
who's
thought. I think that people thought that Trump was racist, bigoted, misogynistic, and that he was going to lead America down a racist, bigoted, misogynistic path, and that he needed to be stopped. I think that people felt that way, and that's why they wanted to silence him and silence his supporters' voices, and that's why they did it.
so basically the question is how do you answer that question from a spiritual perspective, right?
First, let's just look at the facts on the table about human nature, and then let's
Okay.
get to the spiritual perspective.
Can we go to Elon Musk for a second? Because that's the most relevant.
Yeah.
Basically, you have what's called fanboys, right? People who just like love Elon Musk. They think he's great. Why do they think he's great? Because he has like this kind of different character, kind of like how Trump had this different character. Like, hey guys, everything's corrupt, but I'm the best at this, and I'll help you. So people just kind of get behind it, right? So Elon has this kind of way of approaching things. Was like, yeah, I'm going to take care of it. It seems very unbiased. It seems very straightforward, like freedom of speech. He's not saying I think it should be this way. He's going through the Bill of Rights and saying freedom of speech is the most important thing. We decided this a long time ago that everyone should have freedom of speech, and I'm going to make sure that it's kept. Just like how does the Supreme Court work? How does a judge work? A judge, he interprets the law according to how he thinks it should be interpreted. The law is not some
That's right.
some objective, clear set rules that are one way or the what are precedents?
well,
In
hold on.
court cases,
Gravity.
it was judged this
Hold
way.
on,
It
Chris.
was-
Hold on a sec. Gravity is a law. There's no interpreting gravity, right?
law of nature is different, I think. If you're going,
Yes,
if
they're
you're going
absolutely
down that
different.
direction.
Laws of the judicial system depend on time, place, and culture and people, and they also change. We change
even
our
if you have
truth.
the-
We change our truth every day. What are you talking about? You change your truth
can't
every
compare.
moment. The next headline that you see on Twitter changes your truth. So that's why all of these. That's why all practicing law and on this whole realm is very malleable, and it's always in debate because
it's the
there
wrong
is no
approach.
because it's not like
It's
gravity,
an outdated
because
approach.
yeah.
I can't hear what you're saying. I miss like whenever we both talk, it's like I miss every word that you're saying.
Oh, really?
I'm glad that everyone else
What
can
hap-
hear it, but I just
Seth,
miss it.
can you hear
don't
it?
know what
Both of us?
I heard
think-
I heard you just said, can you hear both of us? I heard that.
Seth? You hear us well? Okay, I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on.
I just
I'm
miss
not
what you
sure.
said sometimes. But listen, so Elon Musk, right? So Elon's saying, listen, I'm going to give everyone freedom of speech. I'm going to do it the right way. But Seth was saying earlier, how can that even be the right way? Or you were saying, it's still Elon Musk's way. It's still this judge in the Supreme Court, his interpretation of what freedom of speech is, right? Because there's no precedence for each and every example that's coming up and saying, hey, what about this guy? And what about that guy? And what about this guy? Like Alex Jones, right? And all these great examples. It's just the wrong approach. It's an outdated approach because we're using each person is filtering it. Like you said, each person is filtering their own interpretation of what's happening in reality through their own interpretation of what's happening through. It's not the next person's. It's not the next person. So what do you do with that? The Joseph Stalin idea it's a great example because it's like, okay, wait, obviously we don't want a bunch of people to die, but hey, you want to go to the laws of nature? If it's happening, apparently it was supposed to happen. Now that's even crazier to think. This is why we have no approach to it. But it's still it's possibly more correct to say if it's happening, that means it's the most correct thing. So, but we'd have to put our hands in it. We have to make it better. We have to, maybe that's incorrect. Getting our hands dirty, intervening somehow. Maybe that's somehow. If we're going to intervene, how do we know we're intervening correctly?
No, but wait. The when Bala Sulam, greatest Kabbalist of the previous century, for those who are listening and might not know, when he saw that the Holocaust was going to happen, and he saw it in advance and predicted it in his writings and so on, he was crying out to whoever he could to try to stop it, to try to
To get out, to
to
escape,
to,
maybe
to
not
escape, to reduce the damage, to basically, right. And yet, no, because I this is another very complicated, nuanced thing here, because people might hear us and say, okay, so you're basically accepting everything that happens, and it's not exactly like that, because if it already happened, if something already happened, if it's in the past, it means that, like you said, this already was a certain outcome of all of the laws of nature working to evolve humanity. Whether we avoid, can we avoid such horrible scenarios in the future? We have to, as Kabbalists, we have to look at it that in a way that we are able to prevent suffering, to alleviate suffering, to reduce it, to prevent it even altogether, if we understand the laws of nature and what they want from us. But if we don't understand the laws of nature, and if human society is not catching up with where the evolutionary pressure wants to take us, then suffering will happen. So it's not a matter of it was right that it happened, it wasn't right that it happened. It's just laws of nature that are embedded into everything that is happening. Because we have freedom of choice, because there's some unique place of latitude for the human being to intervene and move towards the laws of nature, adapt ourselves to the laws of nature or not, because we have this freedom of movement, which is very specific and very narrow, but it's still our free choice. Because of that, we can either go through suffering or not. So when I look at horrible things that happened in the past, I understand this is part of this is ultimately part of the natural laws that are taking place, but I'm also sorry that it happened, and I'm trying to fix my ways for the future. But I'm not trying to go against the laws of nature, try to correct the past. It's impossible. Also, you just can't correct the past. You can only learn from the past towards the future. So
there's a thin line of being deterministic, like what is it, so then if you go back to the simple, no one's Musk isn't trying to kill people, right? We're trying to figure out what's the right act, what's the right deed to be done here. Is it possible to define a correct deed in this situation? I think we talked about freedom of choice even once before, and we kind of circled around this point. You know what's interesting? We talked about this. We saw our universe, right? Did you see the on Netflix?
Yes. Oh, that was another thing we thought we'll get into, right? I don't know
because
if we should. We don't have that much time.
Now. Because if you want to go,
okay.
If you want to go to the details of right now, it's worthwhile to look at the details of forever, right? So how did the universe was created? How did the Earth came to all of a sudden inhabit a species that's alive, and how the species developed, from the vegetative, to animate to where we are right now. So Netflix put out this. They put out this it's like a documentary series. Morgan Freeman, he's narrating it, so it's really interesting to listen to. But they did something really different that I've never seen done in like this nature series before. They're talking about, you know, the savannah, and you see the wild animals on the savannah like you've always seen, you know, real up like 4K, nice, high quality, with some like very sexy kind of voice overing and narrating, right? So there's like this kind of thing, and you're following kind of the story of a certain animal, and then you're also what's different here is that they're also kind of going back to how life on Earth even started, and they're doing it kind of like in parallel. So at one point, you're looking at this cheetah. Forgot his name, Waikakomi, the first episode at least. You're looking at cheetah, and then you're also looking at how that cheetah is constantly going after this pursuit of energy, right? So it's needing energy. Where does it get the energy from? It gets the energy from the sun. How is energy from the sun transmitted to Earth? And they're kind of like showing this process in parallel over, like, you know, so you see, instead of looking at just the cheetah, you're looking at an entire system, and that's kind of what's special here. And now, if you want to look at Elon Musk, it's still part of that same system.
Yeah,
That-
Elon
That's
is
all
like
we're,
the cheetah, or Elon is like the chimp, or he's
it's
just
the same
one
laws.
force
Yeah.
in. Yeah, that's the fascinating thing about nature. And when we zoom out far enough back, we do start to see some truth. And I was kind of challenging you guys before about gravity, and you're saying, well, that's different than you know, what happens at each time in each place. But if you zoom back far enough, the time and place are just, you know, different data points on the same trajectory, though, of where the system is going, because we can
Right.
identify, we definitely can identify true forces in nature as much as we can, as much as we can perceive at this point. But we can identify those, and like you're saying, if we're zoomed all the way in on all the data points, then we feel this way about Trump, and feel this way about Elon, and feel this way about each one. And if we zoom, if you watch, this was, I also saw this. Every
Everyone should watch
creature
it,
is
really,
going.
too.
Every creature is going through these different patterns. But each creature, you could say Musk and Trump and Biden. You could call them orangutan, cheetahs, and crocodiles. You know, within a system. So us as Kabbalists, we don't want to be bogged down. I wake up in the morning, I check my Twitter, and this is gonna determine how I feel all day, you know, based on whatever is coming out of my newsfeed. But we want to tap into the bigger forces that are guiding all of this. And from there, that's what I'm asking you guys now. What happens when you know, where is the truth in the system? We know that there is some truth in the system, but on that, well, okay, give me some feedback on that. Where is the truth in the system? How do we reach the truth in the system? How do we work with the truth in the system?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understood where we're going with like what kind of question, because I was also just like thinking about this series. I mean, I watched all of it. If there's it's funny because you know, as Kabbalists, it's very hard to be impressed by media, by films, and there are very few pieces of media that I would recommend to people wholeheartedly, and this is one of them. Just go
Yeah.
watch it. Yeah,
100%.
seriously, just
Yeah.
go watch it. And not right
But
now.
it's kind
Wait
of like
wait a
it's
couple
my
of minutes.
thing, and it's kind of your thing. But I think also a lot of people will be impressed.
No,
in a
no,
good
I
way
think
by it.
it's educational. I think it's important. I'm happy to see that people are putting in their resources, the BBC and the Netflix or whatever, whoever, you know,
Yeah.
putting in the resources to show these connections. And it's really cool. They do connect to the macro to the micro, and from the Big Bang to today, and they show how all life on Earth is inextricably tied to the entire universe. It's beautiful, it's important, and from a Kabbalistic perspective, it will help people see that we are living in a single giant program. And back to the Musks and the Twitters or whatever is happening in the human drama, on planet Earth, in human society, with politics and with the social media and free speech and all of that is also inextricably tied to everything that's happening in the universe, because the universe is a single program. We're living in one single program, and for some reason, we as human beings see ourselves outside the program.
Well,
We
it makes sense
don't.
because you're
Yeah.
developing, and then all of a sudden, on top of this system, this little thing awakens called the human. It's like, hey, walking around, kind of like I'm in control. I'm gonna make this change. I'm
Right.
gonna maybe that only happened, a few thousand years ago, right? But it's still there's a perception, a real grasp on reality. The way that I perceive the world is I'm just living on this space rock, and I can just kind of go walk around and do whatever I want. Yes, that exists. That is how a normal person feels. A
That's the
Kabbalist says,
ego.
"How can I get in touch with that system?" That's
That's
different.
yeah, but that's the reason that we feel that we don't feel this program, and we another one of the beautiful things that they show there, right, is how you see the very clear connection between. There's no humans in that show. It's only still vegetative and animate. There's not a face of a human in the entire 6 episodes. So it's all about the still vegetative and animate. And what you clearly see across these 3 levels is just how interconnected they are. How the energy of the sun runs through all of the plants and the animals on planet Earth. When a cheetah hunts a gazelle or whatever, it's just energy that is shape-shifting, that is transforming. It's one thing. You see the connection between physics and biology. And all of these things, I would say, are good introductions to Kabbalah, because Kabbalah explains that the whole world is a single desire. The whole universe, the whole of reality, it's one desire that has 4 levels, and they're all one substance. It's one substance. The farther you get on the degrees of the substance of the desire that was created, the will to receive, which is creation, which is the universe, which is what's behind all of the energy that is the universe, right? When you get to the human level, then something very different happens that doesn't exist in all those levels. Our consciousness is outside of the program. Our body is in it. Our body is totally in it. Our 5 senses are inside the program. The cells, the 50 trillion cells in our body, they work exactly the same like the cheetah and the gazelle and the whatever, everything there is the same. But our consciousness is outside of it. Our minds and our hearts are outside of our connection to the still, the vegetative, the animate, and each other. And that is the growth of the ego. And
hold on a sec. And so as long as we're in the still vegetative and animate, and you need to say here that even on the degree of the human, because reality has this holographic form, still vegetative, animate, human, which is just yud hey vav hey. It's just that structure within the human level. Also, within each of them, you have all 4, but within the human level, you also have still vegetative and human. So when it comes to what we look around outside and see all of these people we call humans, we have to, in a sense, relate to them as angels or as still vegetative animate, like these ones are the crocodiles, these ones are the chimps, and then we can change how we think of, are they good or are they bad? A Kabbalist has a totally different perspective when he's looking at things. He's not moralistically judging everyone. He's saying, what do you expect? You expect the crocodile is not going to, you expect the cheetah's not going to eat the crocodile.
Exactly. And that's why we're not blaming the right or the left or the Musk or the whatever. Who's his opponent, would you say, in this whole whatever, That's why we're not like, you can't, when you see things from this perspective, you recognize that actually, typically, the higher a person goes up in positions of influence in this world, the less conscious choice they have in terms of spiritual progress, spiritual awakening. But that's for another.
No, say it one more
That's
time.
another. Yeah, no,
Oh, it's worth it. It's worth
the
it.
hearts of kings and ministers and Musks and FBI's directors or Trump's or Biden's is in the hands of the program, much more than people who don't hold these positions of power and influence. Um, and but again, that's for another story. Anyway, where were we going
It's just
with the?
just in order to relate to it differently, because a person can relate to them like, wow, they have so much power. Look how they're influencing my life, you know. But if one simple change in perception of seeing it as that part of that same system, that same program that's running, you see that that's just a bigger. It's like a bigger node, you know. That node has more connections to it, so it can influence the world and change the world faster, change the world more significantly. Instead of relating to it as like this evil force, you don't see evil force in this documentary. There's no such thing as like good or bad. It makes
That's
it very clear to
right.
you there's no such
Very.
thing as
That's
good
a
or
good
bad.
point. That's a very good point. Yeah. That it's and this is another. This is a very. It's a very important point. When we look at animals, plants, stars, planets, you know, this whole vast universe, can you call gravity evil? You know,
Right.
if
The
you
giant
look at the damage and the violence that gravity created and other forces of nature and the collisions that happened, you know, billions of years, can you say it's evil? Without can you say without the violent explosions billions of years ago, we'd have no moon, which means
right.
we'd have no tides, which means we'd have no, you know,
Would you want to stop
no,
the giant asteroid from smashing the Earth? If you do, you're not going to have a moon. If you don't have a moon, you're
exactly.
not going to have life. So
Yes.
if you
The,
look at it from a big enough perspective, everything fits and everything is in harmony. If
exactly.
you zoom
So,
in,
if you zoom in, you start getting yeah, bogged down like by the details. But here's the thing: our work is not escapism. It's not let's sit in a cave and, you know, our spiritual practice is not about that. It's not let's detach from the world, just, you know, not think about all the. You do that occasionally to reset yourself, to balance yourself, but on a daily basis we know what's happening in the world. We are we feel a part of it, and we hope to fix things. But fixing does not mean that we need to change the world with our better human intellect, or with our regulations, or with weapons, or with laws against weapons, or with. What we need is, as humans, we have to consciously become partners with the program that activates us, the program that runs this whole universe and our development. And that's the one thing that humans can and are able and must do, that all other life, all other animals, nothing else in this universe can do. Even if we find aliens, by the way. That's another story. Just wanted to throw that in there. And we might. Okay. I see we're cutting close here to the end here. What?
I'm trying to crystallize where we go from
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, it was a slightly weird show today.
Yeah. We, on the one hand, we can go through, on our degree of development, we can go through many lives in one life, many incarnations in one life. We are not tied to just our protein body, whereas an animal will be an animal his whole life or her whole life. He's never going to not be that. But even we can look back at who we were 10 years ago and see how much we've developed. Look back 20 years ago and see how much we developed. And we can go through that every month. We can go through that every week. We can go through, we're not tied to those celestial cycles. When a baby in the womb takes 9 months to be born, but you can go through those 9 sefirot like a spiritual birth. You don't have to wait for 9 full cycles of the moon to go through that. We have an incredible opportunity, and that's what we want to talk to you about. That's what we're doing here from week to week is feeling where we are, getting an emotional impression from all that, and then zooming out and looking at the big system, where we are at this historical moment in time. What a huge goal, what a huge incredible goal is in front of us. And how by just fine-tuning ourselves, just starting to look at the world a little bit differently, we can start to see a whole new reality where we're above all of these petty conflicts, where everybody fits in harmoniously. Like Chris was saying, there is no bad guy in the nature documentary. Everybody's playing their role. And that's what we want to see even on the level of humanity, that there is no bad guy. Everybody's playing their role when we start to look at it from the right perspective. That's what we're hoping.
The problems of humanity, the conflicts in humanity will begin to solve themselves when we begin to see everything that we see outside of us, all the people, all of the opposing forces, the social polarization and the left and the right, and the arguments about free choice or social media, and when we begin to see that all of that as a part of us, when we begin to look at all those different conflicting opposing forces as forces that are gradually evolving to complement each other within us. They're all parts of us. All of these, from the world leaders to the farthest, most remote human in the world, in the other side of the world that you never heard of, they're all part of you. And when we begin to relate to reality like that, and that does require education and practice and conscious work, that's the work of the human being. When we begin to do that, we will start solving these little problems with a higher mind, with a completely different perspective on who we are and what we are, what is reality, where is it all headed. And it's headed towards harmony. But harmony is not by, going with this ideology or that ideology. Harmony is connection between all that exists, all the differences, all the colors build this high resolution picture that we have to achieve as human beings. That's where we're headed. That's the only solution for the world, and we'll get there. It's happening. It's happening every day.
Nature won't let us accidentally reveal that. So there's a little bit of a little bit of elbow grease to put into it. We'll find it though.
Elbow grease. All right. Let's sing. Let's sing a song.
Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you then. Until then, think about each other. Think good. Inject some positive connection, some love into the network. We'll see how it works out. We'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.
Beyond the border, there's a song that plays, and in our hands we have a choice that waits. Together rising high above these lights,